thanks to this group called the Foreign Policy Association. They were founded in 1918, that's before I was founded, and have been able to promote this through and through for many years. You'll see the reason why there's an old black and white picture there is so that everybody knows it's an old organization that's been around for a long period of time, okay? The mission of the Foreign Policy Association is to promote open, informed, and apolitical public discussion about world affairs. That apolitical portion of it is particularly important in the world that we live in today, all right? Each year, this year included, they pick 8 particular topics to be focuses of conversation, all right? They're an example of a source book, and I've got my props here. Each member who participates in Great Decisions will get a source book. I've got some samples of years past, which I'll let you guys do. You'll see that there's evidence that I actually read some of it. I know that's strange, made some notes, right? A lot of people don't do that, and that's okay. But this is what the cover of the source book for 2025 will look like, all right? It costs $35. It's not free. It'll be available in mid-January or so, and it'll be distributed to each member of the Great Groups, Great Decisions discussion groups, and it'll be available to you to look at, to read, along with the video series that comes along, okay? So let's talk about how each session works. I'm going to start out with more prizes, folks, more prizes. Get ready, everybody. If you are not in this picture, let me see the hands of people who know what this event was and where it took place, if you're not in the picture. Any takers? Any takers? I see a hand here. Loudly, loudly, please. Balboa Park. I heard somebody say Balboa Park. You get a candy. Ready? Here you go. Well, what was the event? Well, why were these charming, good-looking people at Balboa Park that day? A walk with the rabbi. Okay. Get ready. All right. There's a reason I never turned out for baseball. Anyway, I picked this slide for a couple of reasons. Okay, the picture in the slide. One was to make sure everybody was paying attention, but also to kind of point out that every single one of these sessions starts with one thing in particular, all right? It starts with your participation, all right? I have been amazed since I've been part of Hazak, the wealth of experience we have in this organization, okay? A whole bunch of people with a lot of different life experiences, okay? Lots of different opinions, all right? And what matters is you showing up and participating in this, because when you do, we all have a better example, okay? Each individual session, there's really like 3 parts to it. Part number 1, I mentioned the handbook. That's getting passed around. You see a sample of that. Everybody gets a handbook. There's some background information you can read out of the handbook itself, or your own research, or your own life experience. All of that's fine. Each session comes with a video put together by the Foreign Policy Association that focuses on that particular topic. It's about 20, 25 minutes, something like that. And then once we've done that, we break into small groups. We're almost by definition, we're a small group, right? So we just kind of break into that group and discuss the topic, right? Let people present their ideas, some solutions, some not solutions. As Joel said, we've solved many of the world's problems right over there in the youth lounge, right? And that's really what each session amounts to. And, oh, wait a minute, there's one more thing. There's one more thing that's kind of important. At the end of every session, when we're done, no matter how much we yell at each other, no matter how much we raise different points of view, we all shake hands and stay friends, right? And that, to me, is a skill that we could really, really use in this world. Anybody else think about that? Anybody say yes? I'll give them a candy. Huh? All right, all right. Okay, so where are we? So one of the things that we try to focus on in the sessions is staying away from politics. All right? That's a hard thing to do, ladies and gentlemen, staying away from politics nowadays. All right? Instead of that, we try not to pay attention to, okay, is this a red issue, blue issue, Democrat, Republican, whatever. We try to stay focused on the issues themselves. Right? How important is a particular issue? All right? Is it something that's critical to us, part of national security maybe, or maybe is it something that's kind of a sideline issue and just not very, very important? You can count on the fact that by the mere fact that they've chosen to talk about these 8 particular topics, they're going to be of critical importance to people. And what we also do is we brainstorm. Okay, like I mentioned, there's lots and lots of experience in this group at Hazak. There's lots and lots of experience in the group of people that participate in great decisions. And we brainstorm thinking outside the box to come up with different ideas that tend to make sense to actually solve them. Okay? So I'm going to spend a few minutes listing the individual topics so that you guys know what they are. But before I do, who can tell me where those pictures were taken and what the events were? How about the one on the left to begin with? Anybody? Anybody? It's going to happen a little later today. Well, that's Cantor Rafi presenting the Hazak, and she's going to do something similar to that for lunch. And you know what? I'm going to give myself a candy for that. Good job, Brian. Okay. How about the middle one? Anybody recognize the middle one? Some of you were there. I recognize you. That's the Norton Art Museum. Exactly. Exactly. Okay, there you go. All right. One of the things my wife told me is she learned this trick when she taught part-time in high school, and she would throw overhand, right? Norton Simon, exactly. She told me that if I'm going to do this at Hazak, I have to throw underhand. All right. Last but not least, how about the third one? Anybody recognize that? Yeah, I know some of you were there. Wilshire Boulevard Temple. Roz is the winner. Oops, there you go. All right. And again, why did I do this? How's it going so far? Have I got favorable attention? Are people paying attention? I know somebody said they didn't want to sit in the front row because they were going to go to sleep, but I see their eyes open right now, so I take that as a good sign. Anyway, this is the list of topics that we're going to do in the coming season. The first one is American foreign policy at a crossroads. I just turned a youthful 70 years old a couple of weeks ago. I know I don't look it, but anyway. And during my lifetime, I've seen U.S. foreign policy at crossroads many, many times, right? They talk about like at the end of World War I, at the end of World War II, at the end of the Cold War, right? Where there was this whole repositioning of, the world changed, we had to change with it. And again, we find ourselves today at a crossroads. So we'll talk about that subject a little bit. We'll talk about the role of the United States leadership in the world economy, okay? The world economy as it is today was pretty much designed by the United States after World War II. Okay, we were kind of like the last man standing at the time. So is it still something that supports us? Do we want it to be the same? Do we want to change it? What should the U.S. role be in that particular situation? We'll talk about U.S.-China relationships, all right? Some people say that this is the most important bilateral relation in the world in the 21st century. We'll talk about that and some of the different directions it can go in. We'll talk about India. We'll talk about climate change and the international cooperation therein. Should the U.S. go alone in this particular direction, or should we be part of a more a national coalition of things? We'll talk about the future of NATO, European security. Again, NATO was something designed by the United States and put in place at the end of World War II. It's considered by many people to be one of the oldest and most successful mutual defense pacts in the history. Does it still suit our needs? How should it change going forward? We'll talk about artificial intelligence and its role in, or its impact in American national security. And lastly, I'm sure everybody here is going to be interested in this one. We'll talk about American foreign policy in the Middle East. All right. I don't know if you guys know this, but things have changed a little bit in the Middle East lately. There's been a few things going on over there. Okay. God willing, by the time we get to session 8, it'll be a little more settled than it is today. But we're going to talk about that. All right. We're going to talk about, again, what's the role of the United States? Should we take stock, and how can we move forward in a helpful way? Okay? Good so far? Questions, comments? You want a candy? I know, you want a candy. Here you go. Sorry? Yes. The comment was that I mentioned a few minutes ago, we're not going to talk about politics, and the observation was that every single one of these is about politics. I would challenge that a little bit. And I'd say politics impacts every single one of these, but all of these are a little bit independent of politics. Okay? They're going to exist whether we get along with each other or not. Okay? Joel?
I would just add that each of the chapters in the book are written by some of the most renowned experts in the field of foreign policy. So we really are learning from them.
Right. And I don't know if everybody could hear that, but Joel made a good comment that every single one of the chapters on the various subjects is written by somebody who knows what they're talking about. Okay, and again, hopefully, if the books are getting passed around, you'll see some samples of what they've done in the past. These are people that, number one, they present both sides of issues, or many cases more than two sides, but they know what they're talking about. They're good sources of information. Good comment, Joel. Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to try here to move over to a sample. Again, I mentioned the way each individual session works. People come to the session prepared with their life experience, maybe the information they've read, maybe even the information in the source book they've read, and then we'll show a brief video about a particular topic. Now, in this case, I was able to find a video about the U.S. involvement in the war in Iraq. And I'm going to take about 5 minutes to show that to us. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to ask people who have participated in great decisions in the past to come up and join me in the semicircle, and we'll do sort of a live presentation or live demonstration of what a session looks like. Okay? All right. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. Okay. And is there sound?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay, sound.
That country, Iraq of 2000 as well. The United States decided to invade that country based upon a determination that there were weapons of mass destruction, mainly nuclear, being created, and also there was a link between Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden, the architect of 9/11. Based upon those assumptions, we decided this was a core strategic interest, and the policy to pursue was an invasion of Iraq and a toppling of Saddam Hussein. That policy would have a very high likelihood of succeeding. We are, after all, the most powerful military force in the world. Iraq at the time was at best a fourth-rate military, large in number, but not very impressive. So the likelihood of successfully toppling Saddam had to be nearly 99%. But then what are the implications of doing so? Even if successful, is this a policy we should pursue? Not to mention the possibility that we may not be completely successful. At a minimum, it diverted our energy, our attention, and our military from the ongoing war in Afghanistan, which began in September of 2001. It led to chaos in Iraq after Saddam was toppled. We found ourselves in a quagmire that would take us years to get out of, casualties on all sides mounted, and perhaps most importantly, Iran was the principal beneficiary of the U.S. invasion of Iraq. I was asked by a member of my live audience about May of 2003, when the war was going very well at the time, if there would ever be a statue of George W. Bush erected in Baghdad. This was shortly after the large statue of Saddam had been torn down. And my response was, I can't really speak for Baghdad, but I can assure you there could be one in Tehran, because this invasion is going to liberate Iran. It eradicates its enemy to the west. We've already taken out its enemy on the other side, the Taliban of Afghanistan. This is going to springboard Iran into a much more influential position in the broader Middle Eastern region. So even if successful, we have to think about the long-term implications of all of our foreign policy decisions. And then finally, there's the leadership question. Who will be the president sitting behind the Resolute desk in 2025? At this point in time is a question, because this introductory video is being filmed in August. In about 11 weeks, that decision will be made. Right now, it looks nip and tuck. Republicans ahead, Democrats ahead, all of them within the margin of error. So we'll add the U.S. president's approach, their worldview, to our consideration of U.S. foreign policy. So what are the topics for 2025? We begin with a classic challenge, American foreign policy at a crossroads. And here I will compare and contrast the four main foreign policy approaches we've taken in the 20.
Okay, and from here he was just going to review the topics, but hey, I already did that, so I would love it if you would, yes. Okay, so hang on, let me find my way back to the presentation. Did that work? Let's see here. Okay. Don't you love technology, folks? It's one of those things that when it works, it's great, and when it doesn't work, you raise your hand and go, "Help me, help me." This is why we had children. We had children to explain the technology to us. Anyway, so I'm gonna go through next steps, and then I'm going to ask people to jump up with any questions. And then, again, invite all the people who have participated in great decisions in the past to come up and join me. We'll talk a little bit about the video we just saw. We'll talk a little bit about the war in Iraq in 2003, the implications thereof. Okay? So, again, anybody's got any questions, call me, call any of the participants you'll see here. For more information, we want you to participate. Okay? It's that simple. How do you do it? On the Hazak website, vbs.org/Hazak, there's a button that will take you to the registration page, and you can register. You'll get a copy of the book when it's available. It does cost $35. It should be available in January. You'll get a call from me thanking you for participating. That's probably the most exciting thing that'll happen to you all day. And last but not least, I think February 10th, right? February 10th is the beginning of Hazak's second semester, and that'll be the first session for Great Decisions. Okay? And another great presentation, right? Thank you very much. This is my contact information. I'm an old-fashioned guy. I answer my phone. So let me know if you have any questions. And with that, unless there's questions from the audience, yeah, please. Right. The comment was that there's usually a challenge with time, right? Because these things happen at the same time the Torah study with the rabbi happens. And for many, many years now, I've worked real hard trying to figure out exactly how I can be at two places at the same time. And I have not figured it out yet. So, I personally, I love Torah study. I'm here Saturday morning for Torah study because I appreciate it so much. I love what the rabbis do, but you got to make choices. That's all you can say. You had something? Sorry? Okay, how often the meetings will occur? I think we have 8 sessions in the second semester, so it's every Every 3 weeks. Well, every time we have a Hazak Monday, there's going to be a great decisions after that, okay? So again, the schedule for the Hazak Mondays, once the schedule is put together, well, the schedule's set, but the topics aren't set yet. But once the topics are set and we publish it, every Monday morning will be the Hazak Monday that we're used to, right? There'll be a break for lunch, and then in the afternoon will be the choice of the Torah study for the rabbis or the Great Decisions discussion groups. Okay? Anybody else? All right. Now, don't everybody come down here at once, okay? I don't want anybody to hurt themselves, but if I could invite people who have participated in Great Decisions in the past to come on down. Yes, I do. That's you, Esther. Okay. I'm going to move this out of the way. Bill, how far am I still on? Is this okay? Okay.
I'll get it out.
All right, thanks. Yeah. All right.
Brian, here's another mic for the group.
Yeah, you bet. Okay. So a typical, like I said before, a typical Great Decisions session, we will join after lunch in the youth lounge across the aisle over there. It seems like across the street, right? What can I say? We'll show a video similar to what you saw here. One of the new things this year, in the past, the videos have all been on a DVD. This year, they're all streamable, so people will have a chance to watch the videos before the sessions if they want to also. All right, so it's easy to come prepared. It's one of the things. Don't tell anybody, but when I went to high school, I was never prepared. All right, it's something I've tried to do differently in my old age. You think that's funny, don't you? So I'm gonna give this to the person in the center, not because you're going to speak first necessarily, but you can just share it around there. I'll share this one too. I'm going to start by saying that when I have a personal memory of the war in Iraq. Okay, I didn't serve. I wasn't in the army there. But during that period of time, the job I had me in my car a lot, right? So I listened to the radio a lot, okay? And I like a lot of us, by golly, they attacked us on 9/11 and we're going to go get them and stuff like that, and you're either for us or against us and all those things. That was part of my mentality as well. And one time in my car, I was listening to Sean Hannity, okay? And I got to tell you, I'm very grateful to Sean Hannity for this particular event, because this was right in the time, I can't remember the young woman's name, but there was that young, attractive, blonde woman, right, that had gotten captured and was, we were all up in our, Ann Coulter, no. No, it was one of the Army personnel, right? The U.S. had landed, they were going through the desert to Baghdad, and there was a young woman who got captured and injured, and everybody was up in arms about it. I was worried, my God, what's happening to the poor woman, things like that. And Sean Hannity cut from what he was saying about it to a commercial break, and the commercial break was like this festive, we're going to go after the quack in Iraq, right, and all this thing. And something broke inside me at that moment. See, either something broke or something woke up a little bit, and it occurred to me, this is serious stuff. We're sending our children off to fight and die, right? And he's got a commercial that makes it sound like it's, a county party or something like that, right? That had me start to question things. all right? And that questioning, I got to tell you, I'm not exactly a conformist, but that particular moment has caused me to continue to question a lot of the things I hear from people in charge. Anybody else have comments or things that they want to say?
Well, we were just, Alan Manborg and I were just talking that it was about, can you hear? Oh, now you're in trouble. That it's probably every 2 weeks if you calculate it, not every 3 weeks. Hazak.
Every time there's a Hazak, from February to the end of the season.
Twice a month, yeah. I enjoy it very much because of the people who are there, and I enjoy it very much from the broad view that all of them have, which are sometimes different than mine. And you say politics aside, and it's almost impossible, as we say, to exclude the politics aside, but a lot of these issues I don't know the background of, and reviewing it gives me a chance to review things like what's going on in Iraq, what's going on in the Middle East. Most recently, I don't know how many people use Chat GPT, and I don't have any association with them, but I started using that in the last year and find that it's been quite helpful in terms of looking at things like great decisions and topics that I don't have any knowledge of. And the most recent one that I was thinking about when we were talking about Iraq is where the name Palestinians came from. Does anybody know? So most people will say, like Romans, and I found out that it dated back even further than that to the Philistines and in the Gaza Strip. And I mean, things like that. And then things become more apparent. And where did those people come from? Because I'm very interested in what happened before. And it turns out that they may have come from the Aegean Sea, according to my looking into things. And this all came about as a result of reviewing topics about the Middle East.
I enjoy great decisions, both because the camaraderie is terrific in the group, and there's a lot of nice discussion, and it gives me a chance to read something that a little more in depth, because there's just so much going on all the time. So each chapter deals with something, whether it's NATO or UN or something, and it gives you a chance to find out more about it. Some of the chapters are written beautifully. I will admit some of them are not. I think some of them are just too technical, and so they're hard to follow, but those that are good are very memorable, and I keep the copies. And then after we have this audio visual that you see that reviews the chapter, which is new and quite nice, it reviews the chapter, then we break out and we have a great discussion.
What I found out is that one of the things which it helps a lot is the video which we watch. The reason why the video is so interesting is that we all have a personal view of each one of these, politics. Essentially, it's a political view, generally speaking. Very few people are non-political. But the presentation actually points to actual foreign policies which the government, how the government approaches these issues, both pro and con. And so it gives you a really good survey of how a professional person in the State Department might be looking at, which is very different than like what I would have judged a particular problem, and what other considerations you have when you're looking at, it's not just, say, Iraq, and we go into the we go in with the military. It's, as they say, we have now a 2020 vision of what happened in Iraq, and we see the after effect of those things. So you can compare what happened and what actually were the considerations to make the decision that we went into Iraq.
I was just going to add, excuse me, that we watch different things on news, on TV. We have different newspapers, perhaps, that we, read. So we have opinions, different opinions sometimes. And this just stimulates a specific topic. It's very well written, I thought, most of the time. And there's even a series of articles you could go to after if you really wanted to. But I think when we come at it, we each have some interesting thoughts about the subject, and we get a chance to discuss why we think what our opinions are on that subject. And I think we each learn from it. And I think it's been a great experience. I've really enjoyed being in it, and look forward to this year.
So hindsight is always 20/20, as you said. I hadn't heard this comment in the video about how the decision to go into Iraq emboldened Iran. And of course, now we're living with the consequences of that. One, I wonder if that was considered at the time that this foreign policy decision was made, U.S. foreign policy decision was made in 2003. But, we are now living with the consequences of that. We have an Iran that has become very powerful, although some people are questioning how powerful they are now. But, I think one of the things that comes out to me when we have these discussions is we're putting a lot of faith in some people to make these decisions on behalf of the United States. And then, we as the people live with it. What are the decisions we're going to make now about Iran, and the Middle East, which is a later topic, that we are living with now because of this decision that was made in 2003? And I don't know, we can't turn the clock back to make a weaker Iran. Iran had enemies all around itself back then. Now it's got, more allies and, more technology and more nuclear capability, et cetera, et cetera. So, again, I don't know what the foreign policy decisions are going to be now about Iran that we're going to live with, 21 years later. So sort of a rambling topic, but I hadn't heard this comment about how that action changed the power balance with Iran. And I wonder if anybody else has any thoughts about that.
So a lot of us have got better long-term memory now than short-term memory. And what happened 20 years ago sometimes is easier for us to recall. And because I wasn't great at history or geography at school, but I later learned so much more through travel than I did through actually reading about it. So if this jogs our memories and makes us more aware, then we tend to research further. And as you said, ChatGPT, I use that as well. But it's not always factual, and you have to actually double-check everything that you see on ChatGPT, which is an excellent source. And I use it for PowerPoint presentations to get information, and then I cross-check. So the best thing about this is that, first of all, it's so interesting. It is so interesting. So much has happened since all of that. And now when you see it again, and so much has happened historically for us, we are very blessed to be able to remember it and to work through it again and to compare it with other things that we all know about. Many of us lived through another war before that the kids know nothing about. So we have a lot to remember, and we have a lot to be thankful for as well, that we're all still here remembering and coming to a meeting like this.
Well, I tend to agree that invading Iraq was a major mistake with 20 years hindsight. Iran-Iraq fought an 8-year very bloody war, so, like Joel said, by invading Iraq, we've emboldened Iran very much. We've eliminated their main foe. Also, their reason for going there was presumably weapons of mass destruction, which turned out not to be there. And by the way, several years before, Israel took care of the Iraqi nuclear program by bombing and destroying their nuclear reactor. And the other lesson to learn from that is we did get Saddam Hussein, but we ended up trying to create a democracy in a country that was not ready for it. So it took years and years, and Iraq today is weak country with strong Iranian influence, and so the bottom line is bad.
Well, I think everything you said regarding Iraq obviously is true, but we also made it even worse by firing everybody that was part of the Iraqi establishment. So they had no government and they had chaos. So we managed to figure out how to make it even worse.
All right, that's how we do it, folks. Okay, simple as that. All right. This is not about changing opinions. It's about getting more information in which to form opinions. Yes. All right, well, I may or may not agree with you, but I appreciate what you had. Her comment was, it's all politics, right? Okay, clarify then.
That's not such a bad thing, though, because it gives us a chance to air what we think about it and to maybe go on another path of thought because someone else presents an opposite view or an unusual view, which gives us a chance to vent a lot and then speak about it to each other. And, it's a growth opportunity. It really is. I do a few focus groups, not only here, and it's been fantastic for me. Sometimes there's overload as well, but most of the time it's been wonderful.
Well, what does political mean?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
I think we have to distinguish that you can't discuss a political topic without having policies. However, what we mean, I think our group, what it means is that we don't mix domestic policy, in other words, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican, into this discussion. I think both parties supports foreign policy. Both parties considers an issue like this a significant issue to decide what policy the U.S. should be following. So that's what I think what we mean by non-political.
But I'd like to understand the question that's asked. What does political mean to the person that asked the question?
So
I can't hear.
okay. Yeah. Number one, I need to be respectful of time because we have to change lanes here a little bit and we have another speaker at 11 o'clock. But the question was directed to me and a little bit of a challenge, which I appreciate, is what do I mean when I say it's not political? All right? And I guess I'd answer that, being unprepared as I am, by saying that in the mere definition of the fact that we're going to be talking about international affairs means politics is going to have to get involved at some level. This is how we do stuff in the world these days, is through politicians that we elect, et cetera, et cetera. What I was trying to say we avoid is, I don't know, picking a horse and saying, that's my horse and to heck with you. You know, I'm not sure exactly how to express it. Try to avoid whether this is a Democratic thing or a Republican kind of a thing. You know, my guy chooses this, so I'm going to go this way too, without use of facts and figures and evidence and stuff like that. Okay, and I guess the one other thing I'd like to really, really stress, I tried to stress it during the presentation, I want to stress it again now. You know, we live in a divided world, okay? There's a lot of argument, people read different press, people do different things. One of the things I'd like to promote here at Valley Beth Shalom, and certainly in Hazak, and certainly as part of Great Decisions, is we can all talk amongst ourselves, have different agreements about different things, we have different life experiences, and regardless of what we feel or think or say, we can still get together and have lunch afterwards. Okay? Yeah.
Bush administration, and I'm not saying anything too political, but the idea is that we're supposed to listen to the other person and acknowledge that they have a different point of view. You yourself may think they are totally wrong, but not to be disrespectful to them. That's basically it. Because, for instance, this Iraq situation, we were all in a quandary because, number one, they were lying about no weapons of mass destruction, and they put out Colin Powell, the voice of reason and integrity, to lie. Now, did they deceive him? I don't know. But the thing is, in the discussion groups, we try to be respectful of the other person by not cursing them or doing anything like that. We listen.
All right. So with that, I'm sorry, but I'm going to try and wrap it up a little bit because we have another speaker coming up later. At the beginning, I said that I was going to measure my success with this presentation by not scaring off the people that participated before and maybe getting one or two people that haven't participated to participate. And I got candy for anybody who hasn't participated in the past but wants to participate now, okay? If the great discussions and decisions aren't enough, we bring food. That's all I got. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, panelists. I think you can return to your seats if you like. That's it, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, and if you are interested in either re-enrolling or signing up for this year's Great Decisions, as Brian said, you can do it online. There also is a handout at the reception desk or the check-in desk where you can sign in on the back. It is $35 for the resource book, which should be coming hopefully 1st of January.
Middle of January.
And we can distribute that so you can get a head start in reading ahead. With that, we're going to take about a 10-minute break.